Hello, my name is Benjamin Hart. I'm an American attorney and the Managing Director of Integrity Legal here in Bangkok, Thailand. As the title of this video suggests, we're discussing the Thai visa process as we're dealing with these COVID-19 restrictions. And a recent article from the Tiger, and that's spelled Thaiger, and the Tiger is a really nice news source. I get a lot of news from over there. They wrote an article over there called "I Flew Out of Thailand to Get a New Visa, One Person's Experience with the Quote-Unquote New Normal." And this was a really long article. There's a lot of information in there. Folks that are looking to come to Thailand, you may want to check out that article because there's a lot in there. But for purposes of this video, I wanted to point out one quote. And this is done as a first-person account from someone who had to leave Thailand, get their visas in order, and then come back, and everything that they went through. It's quite insightful, frankly. Quoting directly, "This is where it all got a bit tricky in my head. First of all, I already paid the ASQ, that's Alternative State Quarantine, hotel, but they would not refund me if I canceled less than 72 hours before arrival. The COVID test and fit to fly test needed to be done within 72 hours before departure. So if I came back positive, I would have lost my money that I paid to the ASQ and have to go through all the same processes again with all the additional costs." And what this points out is the fact that the current Thai visa process, the process of getting into Thailand, I'm likening it to tumblers in a lock. And the timing of things and how everything you work through the system, it's cumbersome. Okay, getting into Thailand at the moment is a cumbersome process. It is currently restricted to Thai O visa holders who have family in Thailand, and I'm speaking strictly about non-Thai nationals and those who do not have permanent residence. So if you're a permanent resident in Thailand, you can come back into Thailand, although you have to go through a lot of these steps. And Thai nationals also have to go through the same process, especially with respect to testing for COVID. So the thing to understand at this point in time for non-Thai nationals is that B visa holders who have a work permit or work authorization, as well as Thai O visa holders who are married to a Thai, have Thai children, or have Thai parents, those folks, education visas are also allowed. But for the most part, that's who you're looking at. It's a pretty narrow subset of people compared to normal times, because this is just the way that it is currently. So the thing to take away from this video is this 72-hour period where you're dealing with your fit to fly documentation. There's a lot of things about this that create some kind of catch-22 scenarios where you need one thing in order to have the other. So for example, you've got to have alternative state quarantine in order for documentation to be issued to get you into Thailand. So you got to book that first. But if you come up positive for COVID, you could be in a situation wherein you end up not being able to fly at that time, and you've got to do all the documentation over again. As we've also noted in another video on this channel, certificates of entry, and the video specifically is example certificates of entry, the certificate of entry is issued with a very narrow window for usage. And this operates independently of a visa. In a sense, it's almost like a secondary visa. That's the way I'm looking at it. I've often said it's very similar to the electronic system for travel authorization to go to the United States, although the electronic system for travel authorization occurs online, and this is a manually generated document. That stated, there's a very narrow window in which the certificate of entry can be used. So if something gums up the works during this 72-hour period, you may have to go back and get a new certificate of entry. For all of these reasons, if one finds oneself trying to go through this process, it may be a good idea to contact a legal professional in order to gain some insight and guidance as to how best to go about it, oftentimes with respect to the timing of specific steps in getting a visa and getting into the Kingdom of Thailand.